And we are live. Hello and welcome to another installment of the Measure Masters live training series that we do every month on YouTube and in our Facebook group. If you're seeing this on the replay, then you might want to skip over the next part because we are a little bit early and I want to welcome all the guests that made it live. So if you are watching this on the replay, we have some timestamps down below that you can skip forward to. So yeah, we have a few minutes left, but we will get started very punctually today. And first of all, if anybody in the live chat can see me or hear me, then please let me know in the live chat, in the comments on the Facebook group. I will go ahead and see if I can find any trace of me being online, because sometimes the techniques fail and I need to make sure that we are live, that we are actually live. So let me pull this up here as well on my iPad. Yeah, that looks good. Unfortunately, I cannot see the live chat. That should be all right. And nobody online yet? Let me know if you can hear me. I will just check our Facebook group as well, and then we can get started. Jody is here. Hey, Jody. Good to have you. Where are you calling in from, or where are you watching this from? Right now I'm in Berlin, and it's gonna be a hot day, 31 degrees actually. So I'm not looking forward to doing this too long because I can't keep the window open as there's construction always going on in my house. I don't know, since I do these YouTube videos and do live streams as well, I seem to have construction all over the place all the time. But anyways, that's how life is. Today we want to talk about the new version of Google Analytics, really. This is, Tanya is here as well. Tanya, I got your question, so hopefully I'll be able to answer that at the end. Today we want to talk about the new version of Google Analytics, which is now in beta, and we can see it in the app and web tracking as well. So I'm looking forward to showing you that. And yeah, should be working right. And I already put something into the forum. I don't know if people saw this. Did anyone try out the Google App plus Web property already? What are your impressions? So you get already tried it out. He's part of an agency, so probably played with it a little bit more. And I was curious, and he thinks it's really rolled out too early. There are many weird bugs. For example, I'm getting UTM parameters on-site search event. Yeah, that's not good. I didn't get lost in it enough, but we have already get used to this thanks Firebase. Yeah, it's a lot of reports from Firebase actually. And it's not flexible as GA. I would agree. I think there will be push to BigQuery to prepare queries and make Google DataStudio as the only UI for reporting in the long run. That's an interesting prediction. I think Google Analytics will always have some kind of interface. But yeah, I think for professional use, definitely BigQuery is the way to go. Let's go ahead and get started. What's the time? Yes, it's already 10:02. So let's get started with our presentation here. All right, everybody can see me, can hear me. Let's get started. Hey there, and welcome back to another installment of the Measure Masters live training series that we do here within Measure Masters. And Welcome to this live stream. It is August 29th, 2019, and today we want to talk about Google Analytics App plus Web property. It's really a new property within Google Analytics, and this is foreshadowing the new version of Google Analytics actually that will come out and be the de facto default probably in a few years, I would say. It's not really something that will come in the next month or so, so you don't have to worry too much about it right now. But if you want to get on the edge of digital analytics nowadays, then you should definitely take a look at it. And what we want to talk about today is what is App plus Web? What is this new property all about? What is the setup process? So we'll go through a little bit of a demo. We'll look at the new features in the new interface, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of my thoughts and a conclusion on this whole thing. And in the end, we do a Q&A session. Now, if you're joining us live, I won't be able to monitor the chat while we are going through this. So please leave all your questions and your comments in the chat or in the Facebook group as well. Let me just look up if we are live on the Facebook group. Apparently not. That would be not so good. Nope. So let me just go into my Facebook group here and add a new channel. Sorry about this, but it's totally necessary. Oh yeah. Sometimes, it's quite funny because Facebook changes their APIs and then nothing is the same anymore. So we want to put this into this group and save this. And let's start this. So hopefully we'll see a live stream pop up in the group as well on Facebook. And people will be able to join us there. Maybe I'll just start over in a second. Sorry about this. Facebook. Here we go. Okay. We are live. Okay. Let's start over. Hey, and welcome to the Google Analytics App plus Web property session here at Measure Masters live training. Thanks for joining us. Today is the 29th of August 2019, and we will talk about this new Google Analytics property of App plus Web. Now, if you're joining us live, you can always leave your comments in the chat or your questions. I won't be able to monitor this during our live interaction here with the session, but in the end we have a Q&A session. So what we will talk about today, what is this new version of Google Analytics, what is App plus Web? Then we'll go through this setup process of how you can set this up right now in your Google Tag Manager and actually get it running. And then what is the new feature that we have available in the new settings, and a little bit of a conclusion, and I'm going to give you my thoughts at the end. Then we obviously have a Q&A session where I'm going to answer your questions. Doesn't have to be related to this topic that we're talking about today. So if you have any questions about anything about measurement, then leave them in the comments down below and we will answer them at the end. All right, what is App plus Web? What is this new version? What is this new property that you now have available in your Google Analytics account? It is still in beta, but it is something that you can install right now. And it's nothing short than Google Analytics version 3. So the new version of Google Analytics that will become de facto standard in probably a year time or two. And that's why it's worth paying attention to. A brief history about Google Analytics. So Google Analytics actually started out as a company called Urchin. And Urchin was one of the first companies in 2004, 2005 that pioneered this whole web tracking industry. Now you see here a screenshot of 2010. Urchin is still around, but then Google bought it actually. And Google bought this this tracking company and formed Google Analytics for the web. And this was the first time that you could actually use such a powerful software on your own website for free. So the rationale behind it was AdWords was making Google a lot of money, and the only hindrance of making them more money was that the merchants who actually bought traffic from AdWords didn't really understand if their users are converting and what is happening on their website. So they were receiving a lot of traffic and they saw that there were more sales happening on the website, but they didn't really have the means of knowing what happens from the traffic that comes from AdWords. So Google said, okay, let's buy this company, let's give our website owners a bit more control over this, and let's give them the means to analyze their own traffic. And that's why they brought out Google Analytics and Google Analytics for free. That was around 2006, 2007. That's when I actually started looking into these reports for the first time for a company. And then Google started iterating the product. Obviously, there were new design changes, new features integrated, but really the big shift was when Universal Analytics was introduced. That was 2011, 2010, 2011, where there were really new features introduced, especially the library was changed. So from Analytics.js, which was the old tracking script library from Google, they introduced Universal Analytics, which was Analytics.js. And you probably have that running on your website right now. If you're still running GA.js, it was called GA.js. So if you're still running GA.js, then this is an outdated version and you might want to upgrade to Universal Analytics. It anyways nowadays all runs into the new Universal Analytics interface. So with that in mind, Google Analytics upgraded the product. There were new features introduced that they could now do, for example, enhanced e-commerce tracking, which was a big shift, again, for more data, more transparency with what you can do with Google Analytics. Now, during that shift, something incredible happened. As we all know, mobile devices came up. And the iPhone and all these new devices brought new techniques with them, such as apps. And so the web wasn't the only thing where you can see dynamic content anymore. You were actually looking up certain things on apps. So it was a diversified tracking field. And since Google Analytics was only building upon apps, upon web, they quickly had to decide, okay, how can we actually build something that natively runs in those apps and can send the same tracking data over? But they were faced with a problem because apps inherently have a different kind of mode of measuring. You don't have page views in a sense, you don't have sessions in a sense, and the data model itself is something that completely changed over the years. So they released Google Analytics for apps, and this was just taking Google Analytics and putting up some new metrics such as screen views, which was like page views, but screen views, to start measuring apps right away. This was a flawed attempt really, because apps nowadays use really different kind of business models and states to make a business out of the apps and measure actually the apps. So they had to come up with a new way of rethinking this whole model and maybe going away from this whole model of Google Analytics. And at the same time, they bought a company called Firebase. And with Firebase, it's not an analytics suite, but actually a developer suite with many different features such as databases or sign-up flows that you can easily build into your app. You have all these APIs available through Firebase. Now, in Firebase itself, you can do much more than analytics, but one part of it was also analytics. So you had analytics about how many events did you measure, and you had crash reports, and you had actually A/B testing in apps, and so on. Now, at some point, it got confusing because Firebase was actually one analytics solution from Google, and then they still had Google Analytics for apps. So which one should you use? There were some inherent flaws in both of them. You didn't have the, for example, e-commerce reporting inside of Firebase, and you didn't have the event reporting or the data model of Firebase in Google Analytics for Apps. So at some point, they decided, let's call this analytics version inside of Firebase Google Analytics for Firebase. And that's when I got interested in as well, because Google Tag Manager started working differently on apps and so on. And I looked it up inside of the interface, and it was quite interesting of what new reports you had available. But the confusion was still there because we had Google Analytics for Firebase and we had Google Analytics. And when you signed up to Firebase, you were not able to actually build in the same tracking onto your web platform or your web app. You were only able to use the developer features of Firebase in your web app, for example, on a Node.js app, but you weren't able to gather any app or event information from your web app into your Firebase analytics. And that has now changed, and finally we are able to utilize Firebase on the web as well. And this is what the app and web new property is all about. It's part of Google Analytics, so we can see it in the Google Analytics interface, and it's in beta, so it's not completely there yet in terms of what features might be built in, and it's in many ways not comparable to Google Analytics at all, because it's a different data model, but also a lot of features are missing that you still have in your Universal Analytics. So that was it with our brief history. Now, just quickly, Universal Analytics that you see today is different in terms of the data model. So we have sessions, we have page views, we have sessions, we have users. And in the new version, we have something that is more event driven. So it's really open in terms of like what events do you want to send in. And it doesn't really give you any restrictions on how you want to model your data. Although it still does some processing in the background, so there is some processing going on. If you think like Google Analytics itself just reports page views and then puts it into a processing engine and makes sessions out of it. Certain metrics come out like the bounce rate, and then it also does some processing on what was the user. If you have user ID and so on installed, you can even make it more sophisticated. Now, the new Firebase Analytics, or the new web app plus web property, is modeled around events. So you need to send events in explicitly and then can build off your business questions, such as how many people went through this flow or so, which is not something that is a strong suit of Google Analytics or Universal Analytics. Firebase Analytics, or the app plus web, is also missing some features, so e-commerce tracking and so on is not there. We'll take a look in a second what is actually up with that. So let's go through the setup process, and this is where the demo will start, and hopefully we will be able to do this together, and I will be able to show you. Let me just check the chat for a minute. Nothing here. So let's go on and go over to our screen. So I have a demo shop right here where I have Google Tag Manager installed, and right now there is nothing in the container, so nothing should happen. Well, when I'm streaming, the internet is slow. So nothing is in here, and we now want to set up Google Analytics, this new Google Analytics property. How do we do this? In order for our Google Analytics to be ready, we actually need to enter Firebase. So go over to firebase.google.com, and here we get a little bit of overview, and here you can see actually all the features that are included into Firebase. And we will only utilize a analytics solution, which is this here. Get free and unlimited app analytics. We'll actually challenge this unlimited in a second. So once you're here, you can get started, and you will go over to your Firebase console. Now you need to, you can sign up with your normal Google account, and you will get a few projects for free. You can't enter hundreds of projects here. This is still restricted. And we can add a new project, and it will ask us. So we'll just say demo shop app web. And we'll continue this. And this will Google Analytics for Firebase project. Yes. And we want to continue with analytics. And we can select an account here. I'm just going to go with, let me just see. And I have so many. Let's go with this company name limited. And you choose your account, Google Analytics account, create this project, and this will take a while to set up the project for you and make sure everything is in there. But now it will load it actually into your Google Analytics. So in a second, we should be able, unfortunately, there's no overview screen anymore, I think. I think you need to click here. Yeah, no. Before you always had an overview screen of all accounts. So your new project is ready to go. You can click continue, and this is when you can actually leave Firebase entirely. I mean, you could make use of all these development features, and you have analytics in here as well, but this is actually now loaded into your analytics account. So I guess I just click reload here. Take a sip of water with our loading speed. Here we go. So we now should see limited, and we have this new demo shop app plus web property. Has no views. Click here to create views or delete this property. Well, we don't really need a view, I think. Okay. So now that we have this property set up, we need to send data to. And what you actually need to configure first is a data stream. So that means we need to send data into this account. And obviously, as the name says, we can send app data in, but also now web data. So we'll set up web data, and we give it a URL. Now, I don't know if this URL will actually filter our traffic, but that would be stellar, because right now, it's obviously very open who can send data to your account. And we'll just say, use this domain up here. Oh, it's actually HTTP still. So I'll go with this. Oh no, it's HTTPS. Okay, and this will be our demo shop. And now we see here what Google Analytics has in mind for us. So there is a new kind of tracking standard here where you can enable enhanced measurement. And what is enhanced measurement? It's basically all the things that we know from Google Tag Manager. We can track page views, obviously, scrolls, outbound clicks, site search, video engagement, and file downloads. And this will be done automatically. So it's not something that we would need to particularly control. We just, like in the site search of Google Analytics. So let's enable this and see if this actually works. We can now create a stream. Can create a stream. And once this is done, we get a new ID. And this is the streaming ID that we need to now build in. So as you can see here, tagging instructions. This uses the G tag, and with this G in front of it, you know that it's a Google Analytics app plus web property. So you could put it into your global site tag if you have that installed, but obviously I'm a much bigger fan of Google Tag Manager. Here are the instructions. You just need to have this ID here and go over to Google Tag Manager. And now we can just, like usual, click on a new tag and create a new tag, which is this app plus web configuration tag. Now this tag actually will deploy already all our tracking that we have auto enhancement already built in. So what we'll do is utilize as a name, we call this GA app web, and this will be our config tag on all pages. Choose the all pages trigger, and by the way, there's no problem in you deploying this parallel to your page because it uses a different tracker and it will not interfere with your tracking that you already have set up. So if you wanted to do this on your page, you could. Now that we have this in here, we should reload this. And this is where we're going to dive into the new features already. So this is deployed. Inside of our Google Analytics, we have something called real-time. Is this actually called real-time here in the interface? Yeah, okay. So you have two kinds of interfaces here. You have the reporting interface, which is in beta, and you have the real-time, the Firebase reporting, which is something that is more robust, but we'll take a look in a second. So here in the real-time reporting, we should be able to see ourselves in a second. Yeah, one user just came in, 1 per minute, and it has this really nice map where you can see where the person is from and so on. And you can even view a snapshot. Now, this will not give us too much data right now because I just use snapshot, entered the page, but let me click around here. And then hopefully this will update as well. Now, snapshot is a feature that takes a random user activity and shows it to you. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to work right now. Maybe because there's just one user on there. But I'm going to show you this feature in a second. And yeah, kind of like what we have in the real-time reporting, but a bit more centric to understanding your users and what they're up to right now. So here we go. It took a while. So we can see that there was a user engagement at this page and then 18 seconds left, and then we should see something new. I'm actually gonna scroll down here and maybe let's click on this wordpress.org. So we have an outbound link click. I don't know if this will actually work. But let's see in a second. So here you can really already see there's a completely new interface to Google Analytics and all the data that is sent over. Now, one important thing that I might want to mention is that Google Analytics, or these hits that get sent over here on our page, they are actually being sent in batches. So it might take a while for your page views to send, only if the page is, let's say, after a few seconds, it will send the page view and so on. So this is a good technique because it saves bandwidth, and not every time somebody scrolls down and there's 20% and there's 30%, it will actually send this over. Not sure why it's not updating here, but hopefully we'll see something in a second here. All right, and this is where we can already enter the next phase here. What if you wanted to send over explicit events to this new property? And this is where the second tag template that you saw already came in, which is called the event tag. So what you can do here is, again, we can pull data from our other tag, which is the app and web configuration. So there will be an automatic tag here, and we can just define any event name. So let's say we'll define add to cart. This is always my standard example. Sorry. Let's go with add to cart. And then we can send in event parameters. So like in Google Analytics, you have the category, action, and label. This is something you could put in here as well, but it's actually pretty open, right? So you could put anything in here like product name. Now, you obviously would need to fill this somehow. Let me just fill this with URL for now, because it's a standard variable that we can always find. And let's send the event with it. But obviously you can be much more creative in your endeavor here. And then, so this will be GA app web for our, this is going to be an event. And our add to cart click. So now we're gonna do a click. I hope you all know how to do this. And we're just gonna go through it really quickly. All elements, some clicks. And now we don't have our built-in variables enabled. We can choose them here as well already. That's great. Okay, we want to go with click classes, I think. Let me just see. Submit. That's actually, but I think we always have a add to cart here. I think it's this one, add to cart single. So this needs to contain this. So normally, obviously, you would do the other steps of trying to figure out what the classes is beforehand. But now that we have this set up, add plus web and add to cart. Yes, add to cart click is firing correctly. So here we go. We have now sent over an event, hopefully. And whoops, here you should see it, but nothing changes apparently. So I'm just going to reload this and see if you can get this to work. But then we should see the details. So now obviously we need to also, or we can in the interface also report this as a conversion. This is actually pretty easily done. If we go to all our events here, just open this in a new tab. Is that possible? Whew, my computer is slow. So here you saw the different interactions, and it actually tells you the time between interactions. The interesting part is that normally it shows us the interactions actually happening here. So we know what's happening. Okay. Now here you can see all the events that were tracked. This is something that is empty right now. I don't know if this will actually be available to us if we change this around. Doesn't seem so. But I'm going to show you another account in a second. So here you go. You should see the different interactions that are happening on the page. Unfortunately, this doesn't show right now. But it's definitely the way to set this up. You obviously would need to submit this as a version, and you can track your events as usual. And let me go over to our Measure School account, our website. We have already set this up. It was on Monday, so there's not much data in here. But again, here we have 16 events in the last user per minute, 16 right now. And people who are on the website right now, I can view a snapshot, and it will really just take one user. So you'll not be able to identify who is this user in Poland and what is he doing right now on my website. But I have somebody from the United States here. Maybe somebody is on the website from Kansas right now. And I would be able to see, I don't know, normally it would show me actually an event here, and I can click on it. I can see the user engagement and what he's up to. So not sure why it doesn't show me the actual user engagement right now. But normally you can click on it, like here on this user engagement thing, and you can see what campaign did he come from, for example. Is there a the GA session ID, and the different user properties if you send that actually in. So the stream view can be quite good for debugging, although there is a debugging option down here as well. But this is actually for mobile, and you need to go into a debugging view that I couldn't get to work on the web. So you're stuck with the real-time reporting, and you can debug your events, but also look into the different people who are on your website. Here's somebody from, I don't know, Poland? Yeah, Poland, okay. And you can just go through. Somebody from Ho Chi Minh, and so on, Netherlands. So you can see what your users are up to, but it will only choose a snapshot, so you won't see all the information, and you can't follow your people around really. Let's take a look at the other reporting mechanisms here. So first of all, if you have your events, you can define them as conversions, and this is much easier than setting up a goal in Google Analytics, but not very flexible like we have it in Google Analytics, but just clicking this as mark a conversion, right? I marked my newsletter sign up as a conversion, and that will obviously then carry over into the different reports. So we can look into a conversion report here and see how many newsletter signups that I have. If I click on it, it will give you a little bit more information about that and where people came from. And you can even choose different attribution models here. So really different reports. You can, of course, always add a filter. So this is like in your table filters in Google Analytics. You can go through and choose different filters. And I encourage you to just try this out. And then you have different configurations. So what is audiences? Audiences is actually something that is called advanced custom segments in Google Analytics or in Universal Analytics. And now it's called audiences. And this is where you can create, for example, based on different parameters in the user account, your defined audiences. So where did they come from? If I wanted to have only the PPC people, I could say that I only look at the user campaign contains Facebook, right, or newsletter. So here we'll show you, like in the audience builder, that 18 users were tracked, and you can set this up, but right now there's no connection to Google AdWords, so you can't actually send this over. Then we have the different user properties. So when you send over data over about your user, you can create different properties, and this is not something I have set up because I don't have an app where I actually say the user is a logged in user. But it would be interesting if I would set this up for Measure Masters, for example. What plan are these people on, and so on. So you can set this up and send this in. And then, as mentioned, there's a debug view which models the real-time reporting, but I didn't. Oh, right now it works. Okay, I couldn't get it to work last time. And here you can see where people are coming in and what events they actually did over that period. So here we have a session start and a scroll and so on. So again, scroll is something that is automatically tracked. I haven't built that in explicitly. Okay, and then I wanted to look at the analysis features. Now you have different other reports, pre-built reports here, right? I'm not going to go over all of them. I would encourage you to try them out as well, and see if there's any information that you might find interesting. They model oftentimes what happens inside of Google Analytics, so it's not too different. But yeah, we can look at the pages report as well. Where did the people look at our pages and so on? It's a bit different, new interface and so on, but not as powerful as the Google Analytics Universal just yet. But I want to touch on some really exciting new features. So these were actually only available in Analytics 360. Now you might know that Google Analytics 360 is pretty expensive. You pay up to, or minimum, I think, of 20K per month to access the suite. And they had these features before us. So there's an analysis feature where you can choose from different visualizations. You might be familiar from them from Google DataStudio. And you can explore your data in a certain given area. And here you have like a builder, just like in DataStudio again. So we have here a town, and as a values we have active users, which are the metrics, and you have these metrics available. So you could say, I want to see the user, the event count here, and get rid of the active users, and then your report will update. You can share this report as well. So it's quite flexible for exploring data, not so much right now for visualizing it, but we'll get to this in a second. Let me just see. Yeah. Again, I can't go through all of the different analysis features, but one I want to point out is, well, we have exploration, we have funnel analysis, and then we also have path analysis now. So path analysis is similar to what we used to have as a flow analysis, but it's more flexible now because you can choose the steps yourself and actually look when do people jump off. And this is quite interesting because it allows us to build funnels that are more multidimensional, and you can actually see how many people went from step 1 to step 3 and then went back to step 1 or so. And it makes it easy because we can build in nowadays all our filters and our segments right from here, which is quite cool. So again, here you can see session start, and if you click on any of these and you are interested in session start, it will actually go through and build this funnel analysis for you. Now, this is not quite useful just yet because I have event names here, and the events are basically just page views. We could also look at screen, page title, and screen names. So when people start their session, they come through our homepage. Where do they go next? Apparently they go through our homepage again. It's a bit disconcerting that they click on the homepage again and again, or the next page view. But let's say here we have enhanced e-commerce tracking, funnel tracking, and from there a person goes to there and so on. So you can explore the funnels much deeper than what you were able to do in the funnel visualization itself. All right. Let me just see if I increase the volume a little bit. Hold on. All right. Let's continue. We have this analysis, which is called pathing or pathing, and we also have the analysis feature of funnels now available, which is also a Google Analytics 360 feature, really. And you can build out these funnels, and these are very flexible. So we know this a little bit from Google Analytics Enhanced E-commerce Tracking, but in Enhanced E-commerce Tracking, you were actually defined to only do this on your e-commerce stuff, and you were not able to build multiple funnels. And here you can obviously just build another funnel analysis. So really flexible in that regard if you want to look at one or the other funnel as well. Okay, one thing that I have to mention is if you build an event, there are events that are recommended. So you see them here. Like if you have a purchase, you should send over transaction value, tax, and so on. But it's not in a sense like the enhanced e-commerce tracking, where you have a very strict model what you should set in order for your reports to get filled. E-commerce tracking is not at all available within this property just yet. I mean, you could send over this purchase event, but you don't really have the analysis features and everything that you would need to make most use of that data. You would need to default back to Google Analytics, Universal Analytics. And then also the Firebase or the app tracking here new property has very strict configuration limits. So for example, you can only send in 500 events, not more. You have the length of event name, 40 characters, event parameters per event, 25, and so on. And there's actually also a limit going on in terms of funnels. You can create 200, which is quite amazing, although because we have only one or two inside of Google Analytics, Universal Analytics. But so there are restrictions here, and there are actually also, or there is, what's it called, sampling going on. So once you hit a certain limit of events that come in, Google Analytics will start to sample this data. So here you see always on the right side, this report is based on 100% of available data. If you ever get over a certain limit, they will start sampling, and maybe you can get rid of this in the 360 suite. So this is it with a little bit of an overview of what we have in the new property and what is new. I want to just quickly check if I forgot anything. No, this should be all clear. And I want to do a little bit of a conclusion here and let you know what I think about this new feature. So first of all, this whole app web tracking is still in beta. They bring it out early on because they want people to use it, and they had it out probably before for certain user groups, but now it's available to everybody. What you can do is run this in parallel, but it is definitely not yet at the stage where you'll be able to use this in production. Now, there are significant differences to Universal Analytics still. So all the reporting features, as you know, from enhanced e-commerce tracking and all the analysis features will not be there. So it will be really hard to switch over entirely. And this is still in beta and it's not ready yet. So more features will be added in the future. And I hope that we will be staying with the model that we have a very open data model rather than this whole session thing where we are stuck on saying bounce rate is not good, right? Now, actions that you can take as somebody who has access to this is don't switch Google Analytics off or Universal Analytics off entirely. That would be a really bad move. But what you can do is run app and web in parallel. So you can just install it and see what data is coming in, get used to the interface and see what new features are available. So you will be working with that data, and we don't know when it will happen, but it will happen in the future, that it will slowly be moving over to this new version of Google Analytics. So probably in a year or two. I hope this was useful, and I'd love to take your questions. So if you have any, please put your questions in the chat and I'll answer them there or inside of the group. And let me just go over to Facebook right now and see what we have going on with those people right here. Ricardo is here and he says, you said that we can have both UA and G working concurrently as they have different trackers. But that means that we should be moving web properties to this tracker, or only if we have an app and web properties. No, I would, so they have different trackers, which means that if you keep Universal Analytics running, it will send data as usual to your Google Analytics property. You will still be tracking the same data. And this new tracker that you install, which is basically like a new endpoint that is installed on your website, it will not interfere with your old tracker at all. So it will not automatically pick up, let's say, link clicks that you have configured for this old web property, or for this universal analytics property. So you can run this in parallel, just install it like we did in this tutorial, and it will send data to both and it will not interfere. This is all I wanted to say with these different trackers. Now, you don't have to move anything over for the web property, and you don't need to have an app in a sense that you have an iOS or Android app that you would need to use. What you can do if you have web and app at the same time, so you have these, you can set this up so it gathers data in one account, and this would be the most useful use case I could think of right now. That said, there are actually people who have been running Google Analytics Firebase already, and they can upgrade their account. And they will get a little banner up there saying, do you want to upgrade this to web and app? Because maybe you want to combine data sources. I hope that helps. Now again, what Yigit said earlier, what I didn't see yet is there are weird bugs in there, and he's getting UTM parameters on the site search as well. So that might be something to look out for, because I also haven't noticed it yet. I haven't played with it too much, but it's fairly interesting in terms of seeing how this will evolve. And if you want to be right at the edge of, cutting edge of this new analytics tool, definitely check that out. Then we have a message from Michael here. Let me go over in the chat. This needs to be resized. Let me just do this really quickly. Does this work? Yes. Okay, here we go. Let's just make this bigger. We have Michael. Michael says maybe too few people to protect privacy. Yeah, if you don't have too many people, then you can probably see who is who in the whole thing. But normally you would protect, they would just take one snapshot of one person. You can cycle through people, but until you get the right person that you were thinking of, and you cannot search in the stream view as well. So you need to be aware of that as well. Then in the Facebook group itself, we had another question. Let me go over, and I'm just going to answer this one as well. I have a URL in Spanish, special characters, so it's registered like this. Okay, yeah, this is the URL thing that sometimes goes in, as it comes from Spain. Yeah, I read JavaScript escape function used to do that, but it's depreciated. So any idea how I could, in simple way, like a JS variable, convert it to the path Okay. So this is the path that you want to have. Yeah, you could say, let's take this. And I'm just going to try this out. So I'm going to open my developer tools. I'm getting a big stop message. And I'm going to try, we basically have a string. So this is your input. And now we want to replace string.replace. And here you see we need to have a search value, and then we need to replace that value. So our search value is $C3 $B1, right? And we want to replace this with N. So here we go. This is the output of our replace function. And that is basically what you're asking. So if you would put this into a custom JavaScript functionality, it would look like this. You would simply have your string. So let's call this input, var input, or let's call this var URL. And you would load in your URL variable or your page path name, page path. So this is obviously something that you would like to do in this is what you do in GTM itself, and then you would return again URL.replace, and this thing right here. Now, I don't know if you have multiple of these, right? If you have multiple of these, you could actually say, okay, I want to, if you have multiple cases, I think you could just say var new. And this is the first one, and then you would have a second one, let's say 1, 2, 3, and you want to replace this with O, and you have another one. Okay, you have another one, and this would be blah blah blah. Okay, and you want to have a P. And then in the end, you return the new value. So you could put this into a custom JavaScript variable, and then you should be able, because it will look for this, and if it's not in URL, it will not replace it, obviously. And if this is not in URL, it will not replace it. And if that is in the URL, it will replace it, and then will just return the new. You could actually, as a programmer, I always think of, yeah, let's make this URL. I'm not a programmer, but I hate if you repeat yourself, and that's something you should all not do. So we'll just use the same variable and rewrite it. Okay, this is something you can put into, I'll just post this underneath in the live stream. Try this. Okay. I hope this answers the question. Anders has another question here. The web tracking seems to be straight, but what about mobile apps? How will that work? Well, mobile apps are not static websites. So what you would need to do is implement a, first of all, a development kit, and you would need to go through and see how this is done. Development kit. You would need to install their, what's it called, a SDK. Now, this is something you would need to be doing with your developer together, because in most cases you don't have the availability of or are not able to edit the code directly. Mobile apps are basically application code that runs on the phone of the user. So you would need to edit the code and then distribute it as a new app update to the user itself. Now, I'm not sure if you can do this yourself, depending. I mean, if you're the app developer, obviously you could. But in most cases, we as marketers would need to work hand in hand with the developer in order to do this. And therefore, you would need to send them over all these instructions. If you really want to dig in how to do this, Simo actually on his blog has just published 2 versions of guides on Android and iOS, and how to install Google Tag Manager there, and also test this with Firebase. Now, in his tutorial, it takes like 40 minutes because you need to build a little app with him, and then you deploy this on the app tracking. So it's not something, and I would discourage you, if you don't want to get too much into this, to try to do this yourself on a production app. I would rather try to understand the process behind it, and then be able to instruct the developer on how you want what events to fire when. And this is something that is not easily deployed via Google Tag Manager or via the app. You need to be working with the developer to build this in explicitly. And yeah, it's really the same API. So you have a configuration API where you say, okay, we want to track basic screen views. This is automatically tracked. And then you can send in events. Explicitly. So for example, sign up button and so on. I hope this answers your question, Anders. Do we have any more questions? Not right now. Oh, we had one question from Tanya before the whole thing. She was asking, let me just pull this up, how you would be able, just need to open up the demo account. She was asking about, we have attribution now here. That's something I haven't noticed before. Cool. So right here she was asking about the bounce rate. So if we have a source medium report and this report right here, she was asking how would we be able to recreate something like this. So you have 100% of total, and then you have something better and worse performing. And this is a chart that she would like to rebuild in DataStudio. Now, I won't be able to show you right now all the steps that would be involved, but you are definitely able to integrate positive and negative values into a DataStudio bar chart. Yeah, it's very easy. It's very hard to rebuild because probably Google Analytics doesn't give us the data by default. So we would need to have a data source where we actually have these negative and positive values in a spreadsheet, and then we would need to integrate it. And if it's not possible to do in one chart, you may have to build two charts to actually say, I want to get data from negative values as well. So it may not be something that works out of the box so easily, Tanya, but it might be something that you would be able to build with a dedicated data source. So you prepare the data first and then you build them into this. It's not easily done by just saying, okay, I want a bounce rate here and I want to compare them on a 100% scale. That unfortunately is something that Google Data Studio won't be able to do for you right now. Would be my guess. I'm not super familiar with this particular case. Maybe if Ahmad sees this later on, he would be able to help you out with this question. But I myself, I would say that it's not something that you can quickly put together in DataStudio, and especially with a data source that is dynamic here like Google Analytics, but rather you would need to build this into a secondary data source like a spreadsheet, make up the values, and then visualize it in DataStudio. And then you can do it in the right order. I hope this helps. Sorry, I couldn't really go into detail here because I didn't. I would need to prepare an example to really show you how to do this. Okay, let me just see. Do we have any more questions? We have Anders. Okay, is there a possibility to define tracking points in an app? Can GTM be installed in the app? Maybe you explained this, but it did not get it. Does Simo's blog explain? Yes, Simo's blog explains this. The way I understand it is that Firebase needs to be installed, and then you will need to tell the developer to send events to Firebase. You need to be very explicit because they need to be built in by the developer. For example, a user has a high score or a user opens up a new account or so. This is something that obviously Firebase wouldn't automatically detect, and you need to build it in with Firebase. So this is the functionality of Firebase itself. Now, what also can be installed is Google Tag Manager, but from Google Tag Manager itself, within Google Tag Manager, you cannot define events. You can only piggyback on the events that get transferred over to Firebase Analytics or to Firebase anyways. So in Firebase itself, you have these tracking events such as somebody signed up or he viewed a certain screen or so, something explicit that you want the app to know. And then in GTM itself, you can say, oh, I see that this was tracked in Firebase, and now I want to piggyback on this event, and I want to also fire a event to Google Analytics or to any other app vendor that is out there on the app vendor side. I don't know, AdWords conversion tracking or so, right? So in that regard, GTM is not a layer to define events and quickly set up tracking, but rather just a layer to distribute events or to distribute data onto different other platforms. You cannot define events within Google Tag Manager for apps, but only distribute the data that is anyways tracked with Firebase Analytics already. So this is a quick overview on how this would work with Google Tag Manager together. All right. If there are any more questions, please let me know. And we are coming to the end of our live stream already. It was good to talk through this with you. I hope this was helpful. And as always, if you have any questions after the fact, after we go in and talk about this app tracking and so on. If you have questions after the fact, please leave them in the comments below or also on the group. We are always open, and I can always share my experiences with it. Obviously, those are also limited to what data I can get. Oh, by the way, maybe I should mention this as well. If you're really interested in what Firebase Analytics actually looks like, you can also log into Firebase, and they have a demo app that they give you access to. And here we would be able to see like real screen views and actions and so on. So if you look at events, you see there are many more events than in our demo app. Why doesn't this load? Here we go. Oh, maybe we should go. This is the dashboard. This is our demo app here. Let's go to Stream View. And you can see, and this is actually a live app that is installed on the Web App Store. You can now bring this to, so here's the banner that you can actually upgrade if you already have an app in Firebase Analytics. And when I click on Begin Upgrade, is it gonna give me, okay, interesting, cool. I'm gonna go with this demo account here. Okay. Unfortunately, in this company Inc. I can do it. Cool. So I have actually a playground to see much more data when this is this demo app is actually installed. And this is like the demo account that you have in with Google Analytics. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And yeah, you can see here the stream view has much more data. Why is there no data here? There should be many more people in our demo app. Or is this? So there's definitely a demo app that is given out by the Firebase team. Was it not this one? Oh, it's this one. Fire demo app. Okay. That's why I got the. So here we have much more data, and you can actually play around with the stream view as well with many more data points and see what data you would get. It's not something that is available. Yeah, I could see this hopefully in Google Analytics as well. So here we see much more data, 25 users using the app, and we can see the different users in our stream view and what they're actually doing. This is an app that you can download inside of the Play Store and can actually look at yourself. So that's something I just wanted to mention at the end. All right, that's it with this month's Measure Masters live training. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know if you have any questions, if you find or have any suggestions for the next live stream. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know, and hope to see you soon. As always, my name is Julian. See you in the next one. Hold on. My name is Julian. See you in the next one.